going through it. You think you're the only one when you're going through it. And then when you meet other people, you go, oh.
Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Life Without Lupus project as we present to you Journeys with Lupus, a New Reality. As you may or may not know, May is National Lupus Day, and we would like to honor lupus survivors everywhere by bringing awareness to this insidious disease. What is lupus? Lupus has been called the disease with 1,000 faces. It has also been called the invisible disease, and it has been also called the great imitator or the wolf. Why? Because it attacks the person from the inside out every which way that it can, by compromising their immune system and also by making their body attack its own self. Also, it can imitate many other diseases as well, so it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. As you may or may not know, 1.5 million Americans are affected with lupus. There remains no cause or no cure, and that's why we're here, to bring awareness to this disease so that we can be on the battleground and come up with a cure. This disease has taken so many lives, so many of our brothers, our sisters, our family members, and we're tired of it. So in order to fight for those survivors, we are here bringing awareness, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Joining us today is Jen McCauley. Jen, thank you so much for tuning in. You were diagnosed with lupus a year and a half ago. Talk to us about the everyday reality living with that disease.
Wow, that is actually a tough question for all of us to ask, because a lot of people would have very varied questions. In my case, would be having to make it every day. And by having to make it, I mean that every day could change. In 24 hours, your day can just completely switch from being alive to fighting for your life. In my case, it has happened that I've actually died twice because of the disease until I actually got diagnosed. And well, it's two mentalities. Thank you, Lord, for giving me another day, or oh man, I cannot do this anymore. So you have got to put something in your head like, okay, this is hard, but I have reasons to make it. In my case, it's my children, and because I love them like nobody else will, and I want to make sure that they are raised the way I want to, I have to be there. So I have to fight.
You are such a strong woman. I can't imagine just the emotional toil and mental toil it takes to just get up every day and say, you know what, I'm going to focus on life. Thank you so much for sharing.
Definitely.
For many, lupus has been a longer journey. Such is the case of our guest here, Germanetta. Germanetta, thank you so much for joining us.
Honored to be here.
Talk to us about your journey with lupus. When were you formally diagnosed, and just that road since then?
Well, I was formally diagnosed in 2003 after maybe seeing 4 or 5 doctors with different diagnoses. Then I finally saw a doctor who just looked at me and thought, let me check this out for you. So we did different blood tests, and everything came back high titers for lupus and Sjogren's and other the connective tissue diseases. Prior to that, I was told I had diabetes.
So how long do you think that you lived with the disease prior to knowing?
I truly believe I had probably been living with this disease since maybe 1998. That's when I started noticing a difference in my body. I didn't have any energy. Depression kicked in because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was a vibrant person.
If we could know one thing about lupus, if you wanted the world to know one thing, what would that be?
Seriously, I hate it. The other point, more to that point, is it is a mysterious disease, and I would tell anyone who has to deal with that, you have to be your own medical historian.
That's good.
You have to know your family background, because people don't always talk, but you have to ask questions. Once you know your family background, you can kind of know where these autoimmune diseases might be hidden in other diseases that eventually show up with, with lupus being a major part of it.
Thank you so much for sharing.
All right. Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's why awareness is so important. After all these years of research, it's hard to exactly pinpoint what lupus really is. Joining us today is Shannon Thomas. Shannon, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Talk to us a little bit about your discovery that you had lupus and what that looked like.
It was very scary. It looked like denial more than anything for me. I denied it. I denied having lupus. The doctors informed me, I went for a normal physical. The doctors told me, she said, "Shannon, I want you to go see a specialist." I said, "Okay, I'll go see a specialist." The specialist informed me that I had lupus. And I said, "Okay." And I walked out of the door and left and never came back because, no, I didn't have lupus. I didn't have the signs. I didn't have symptoms. To me, I didn't. I wasn't sick. I wasn't feeling bad. I did not have lupus.
Why did you get tested?
It was a normal, regular, I go annually to get a regular checkup.
Wow. You're actually the anomaly because a lot of people have been called hypochondriac prior lupus discovery. They've been, suffering with this disease for so many years before they get discovered. You just walk in and get a checkup and they say, "You have lupus."
And I said, "No, I don't."
I bet you did.
The legacy, I guess, or words of encouragement that I would like to leave behind for other lupus survivors and my family is that 5 years ago at my first speech, when I talked about my lupus, I reminded the world that you may have lupus, but lupus does not have to have you.
Thank you, Shannon. And lastly, Jen, what would you like to leave?
Well, for me would be, as Jeanette and Shannon were saying, lupus does not have to have you. And for me, it would be another two things: strength, love, and also, actually, it's a third thing, believe that there's a higher power. For you may be God, for you may be something else, but believe that there is someone that is watching over you, and that's why you get to live another day.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You ladies are a bulwark of strength for all of us. We appreciate again that you sharing with us.
Oh, well, I had 2 strokes. I was paralyzed on my first stroke and a host of problems, internal problems, but I recovered from that. But I had my second stroke 3 years ago, and I lost my speech totally. And any question you asked me, I couldn't say yes or no. Most of the time.
Right. Knowing what triggers a flare, know when we need to see a doctor, and if the doctor is treating us with something that's not doing anything but making you feel worse, then you go and say, "This is not working." Information about taking a proactive role. And with the number of people that are not going into medicine these days, and the number of doctors that are leaving, whether it's age or being overwhelmed or just tired and worn out, there is going to be a higher ratio of doctors to patients. So we aren't going to get more than 15 minutes if we're lucky with our doctors.
Is that everyone's experience? Has that been consistent?
I mean, there are some doctors that will give you more.
Yeah.
And now there's a new thing. It's concierge medicine. Concierge medicine. So with that, you buy a membership into that doctor's practice. You pay a fee at the beginning of the year, and you have reduced payments as far as your appointments are. But you get hour-long appointments. You get appointments whenever you need it.
Sounds like prepaid legal or something.
Well, it's almost like that, but you don't have that. You're in here and you're out.
Right.
You can call the doctor at any time, but you're paying for it.
Have you ever heard of lupus? Chances are you know someone whose life's been affected. A new diagnosis every half hour, 1.5 million patients. That's enough to fill 30 baseball stadiums. Too many people for you not to know anything. Let's get educated. The Lupus Foundation of America can help.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that the stories of these lovely ladies shed light on this disease and cause you to either research or to go out and be involved in the cure for lupus. If you have any questions or you want to know more about how to get involved, please visit our Facebook, Life Without Lupus Project. Thank you for tuning in.